Indictment for murder, guilty. Indictment for murder, guilty.
Justice was done.
It gave a voice to Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, who were brutally mowed down and murdered. We can't bring them back, but we can bring them justice.
And he may be taken away.
If you're a fan of Court TV at all, then you know we have new developments in the Murdaugh murders. Attorneys for Alex Murdaugh are seeking a new trial alleging jury tampering by the Clerk of Court, Rebecca Hill. Now, Murdaugh's attorneys detailed those allegations in front of the South Carolina Court of Appeals and outlined them in a press conference Tuesday afternoon.
When we considered what factors and what we should and should not do and considered whether he should take the stand, we never considered the likelihood, as reported to us by the jurors, that the Clerk of Court would go in to the sanctity of the jury room before he testified and tell the jurors, don't be fooled by his testimony, watch out for his body language, and that is what the sworn testimony that we have filed in court today says. And if that is true, which we have every reason to believe that it is, and no reason to believe that it's not, there's no choice but the courts to grant a new trial.
Murdaugh was sentenced in March to 2 life sentences for the murders of his wife Maggie and his youngest son Paul. The 55-year-old has always maintained his innocence. Now, the defense's motion alleges the clerk told jurors not to be misled by the defense, not to be fooled by Murdaugh's testimony, and that she fabricated a story to remove a juror who she felt might vote not guilty.
We were not looking to impute any nefarious conduct. But clearly what the jurors reported to us, that they were off talking, the forelady and the clerk. I saw them together, but, you know, I wasn't watching. I believe, look, I've been doing this almost 50 years. The bedrock of any trial, and I've done hundreds of them, is that the Clerk of Court is the person that makes sure the jury gets their food. If they're put up for the night, someplace to stay, their travel accommodations are met. They're not someone that ever should talk to them about the case. I've never had it happen.
Murdaugh's attorneys claim Hill's motivation surrounded a book deal and media appearances that would have been in jeopardy in the event of a mistrial. Hill denies the claims, calling them so untrue. And her co-author appeared on closing arguments with Vinnie Politan last night, saying there was no book deal and they self-published the book. Defense attorney Dick Harpootlian appeared on Good Morning America and encouraged other jurors to seek legal counsel.
The 2 jurors that gave us affidavits hired a lawyer, Joe McCullough, before they would talk to us and before they gave us the affidavits. The other jurors out there are on a group text, and we are reasonably informed that last week when these allegations began to surface, one of the jurors said, quote, "Who's talking?" I'm concerned that these jurors don't understand the import of what's getting ready to happen. They need to get lawyers. They need to understand they may have some exposure, and they need to be careful before they start talking to the FBI or SLED or even us.
All right, here to discuss is criminal defense attorney Joe McCullough, who, as you heard, is representing 2 of the Murdaugh jurors who gave affidavits. Joe, great to see you. Thank you so much for taking out time to be on the show with me tonight. Really appreciate it, man. All right, let's start off first and foremost, just standing afar from this situation. I know you represent 2 of the jurors, but standing afar, I just got to get your reaction to some of the claims being made by the Murdaugh defense.
Well, the claims don't please me as a trial lawyer or as a person who spent 6 weeks in the courtroom watching this trial and having a relationship with the Clerk of Court, who did a good job in running that courtroom and courthouse. So I don't take any great pleasure in where we find ourselves. So these are tough allegations. The defense has a job to do. The prosecution.
All right, it looks like we've got some, okay.
If the prosecution has to unwind its victory lap, that's going to be a bitter pill.
Yeah, no question about it. Now, you mentioned Becky Hill. I know it's a small community out there. I would imagine you know her or have certainly been in the courtroom where she was the clerk of the court. She was handling a case you might have been involved in. What can you tell me about her and your interactions with her in the past?
Well, I had limited interactions. I don't do a lot of business down in the Low Country, or at least in that county. I found her to be a very charming person and one who appeared to be doing her job. These allegations are troubling. They're going to have to be examined, and there may be innocent explanations, and there may not be. But she, I understand today, has hired her own set of lawyers, and that's appropriate and necessary. And my clients, for their part, are courageous ladies who came forward reluctantly, who agreed to speak to the defense. And I think all of this just now is in the hands of the court.
All right, so let's talk about your involvement in the case now. I can tell you, Joe, that it has raised a few eyebrows. Everyone knows that you're friendly with Dick Harpootlian and used to work together. Guys have been colleagues for any number of years. I know you were involved with them in the defense, not helping them, but you would go to dinner and were getting some updates on the case. And now here you are representing two of the jurors that could be responsible for getting a new trial for their client. Tell me how you got involved in this case.
Well, I'm no friend of Alex Murdaugh since I was busy suing him throughout the 6 weeks of this trial. Absolutely correct. Dick Harpootlian is a person I've known for decades. We were law partners. I've known Jim Griffin. We've been on opposite sides of cases and on the same side of cases. I've worked with some of the prosecution team and tried cases against them. So South Carolina's about that big. Everybody knows everybody. The fact that I went to dinner at the defense team's quarters during the trial, I believe I also drank coffee and had breakfast with the prosecutors. So that 6 weeks was a long 6 weeks where virtually everyone interacted on varying levels. How I came to be involved on behalf of these jurors is I was asked to be. Initially, I was asked right after the trial to help jurors not be bothered by media, by the press. So I stood in a protective role at that time, trying to get them some peace and privacy, and I still have that role now. These jurors are courageous. They deserve the respect of the public for giving their versions of events and having the courage to do that. They don't deserve to be rolled and trolled by some of the more obsessed public out there.
Joe, let me ask you. Oh, I'm sorry, Joe,
yeah,
go ahead. No, I was just going to
please.
say, there's some suggestion that if this was going on, some of the things, they seem so egregious. At some point, do you have any explanation for why the jurors might not have gone to the judge and told the judge what was going on?
Well, yeah, I think that a jury is intimidated by the authority of the judge. This is a judge who, at one point, determined that the jury's selection of a 4-person was not his selection, and so he replaced the jury's selection. But I think that juries are, they've assumed a role, they become followers, they're not leaders, they're certainly not going to provoke authority in the courtroom, and I think that their silence in this matter is absolutely understandable to me.
And Joe, finally, let me ask you, so what's next now for your clients? Because clearly she's claiming, or Becky Hill is claiming, this stuff is not true, somebody's lying here. What's next for your clients?
Well, I think there's an investigation that's next, and the 2 jurors I represent, the other jurors some of whom have been on television, flown to New York, talked freely to the press, now will find themselves in rooms with investigators, if not in a courtroom under oath, and they're going to have to answer questions about their best recollections. So it's not really a contest of numbers, it's a contest of information. And I mean, if the defense is able to establish this tampering that's been alleged by them, then the burden shifts. There's a presumption of a tainted process, and that presumption is a strong one.
All right, Joe McCullough, we'll be watching this closely. You're now, as I said, representing two of the jurors who have filed affidavits with the defense, suggesting that there were improprieties by the clerk of the court. Again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.